target is to complete his PhD, that submission, within 4 years. And I think he will be meeting this target almost with probability 1. So one of the facets of Swapravanath last 4 years has been that he has been very positive in collaborations. He has collaborated with Professor David Parks from Harvard University. And he has collaborated with Ono Zutter and Chris Dawes from Xerox Corporation in Europe. And back home, he has collaborated with Dinesh Garg, with Pankaj Dayama, with Murali, and who else? How about with your own professor? Right? So I think he has been an excellent collaborator, and that is very much shown in the kind of work that he has done. He has done some very interesting work on a fairly contemporary topic on crowdsourcing mechanisms. So I think we'll have an interesting presentation by Swapravanath. So let's congratulate Swapravanath in advance and then invite him to give his colloquium.
Thanks, Professor Narahari, for this wonderful introduction. Yeah, so as already said, I am indebted to Professor Narahari for letting me work on this very interesting topic in the intersection of microeconomics and computer science. And in general, I am thankful to all the people in our lab, the game theory lab, in general in IISc, my co-authors, my collaborators, as he has rightly pointed out, many collaborators from outside IISc and inside as well. So, and also I am thankful to the faculty members of IISc in general, the student life in IISc. So, I have a very challenging task at hand, that is to describe whatever I have done for the last 4 years in 1 hour. So the plan is the following. My title of my thesis is Mechanism Designed for Strategic Crowdsourcing. And the plan is to give a broad overview with a brief introduction on each problem that I have worked on, and then then dig deep into one of those problems, one selected problem. So here is the plan of my talk. Maybe many of you already know about what crowdsourcing is, but for the completeness of this talk, I'll just give some examples on how crowdsourcing is being used, both in the non-commercial and commercial areas, and why we need to study the economics of crowdsourcing. Then I'll give a broad overview of my thesis and give brief introduction on each of the problems that I have worked on. In particular, as I have promised, that I'll dig deep into the Sybil-proofness problem, and then I'll go to the summary and sketch certain path that lies ahead. So, talking about crowdsourcing, almost everybody know about the Oxford English Dictionary. I think everybody knows, right? But maybe few of you know that it started as a crowdsourcing project. So, in the late 19th century, the University of Oxford started a project called the Dictionary Project under the supervision of Professor James Murray. And they rightly realized that the best way to know a language is by speaking to people, is to gather information from the people who actually use it on a daily basis. So what they did was they made an open call to all the people in and around the Oxford area and asked them to send their entries with a certain word and whatever they mean by that word to the office of James Murray. And it was an enormous success. Over the period of 70 years, they got more than 6 million entries, which is enough to build one dictionary on itself. There had been many books written on the history of OED, and the most prominent one that I could find is by Simon Winchester, and this gives a broad overview of how this project was started and how this one was executed. So that is one of the earliest examples of crowdsourcing that I know of. So this next example is much more recent. This is called the ESP game. ESP stands for Extrasensory Perception. This is an online game where you can log in, and whenever you log in, you will be matched with a random user from some other part of the internet. And both of you would be shown the same picture, and you'll have to guess what this picture is about. And there is a box here which you can use to enter your entry. So maybe you think this is a picture of a deer, then you enter it. And if both of you and your partner enters the same word, you both get some points and you move to the next round. where you will be shown a different picture. So the idea is that this kind of pictures are very easy for human brain to render, whether this is an image of a deer, while even the most sophisticated machine learning or image processing algorithm will take a while to decide whether this is the image of a deer or not, and maybe sometimes it might be inaccurate. So that is the whole goal of crowdsourcing. The human brain is good at doing certain things which even the machine cannot, and that is the reason why we are trying to harness the expertise or the skill of the human brain, and that is what crowdsourcing is all about. So the third example is that of Wikipedia. We use Wikipedia all the time, and in the current day, we sometimes put more trust on the Wikipedia articles than even some of the textbooks. So Wikipedia started also as a voluntary project. If you are an expert on a certain topic, you can start a new Wikipedia page, or you can modify and edit the existing content. And that is how Wikipedia harnesses the information, the expertise of the crowd, and it made it one of the largest online encyclopedia these days. So these are the three examples which is crowdsourcing without money. So none of these involve monetary payments. But there is a huge bunch of examples or applications which involve money. One of them is Innocentive, innovation with incentives. So this is a platform where you have both task posters. So if you have a task, you can come to this Innocentive website, or if you are a task seeker, then also you can come to this platform. In this case, the task poster is USAID, and they have a certain description of this problem. They have a brief abstract and also a long abstract, and there is a prize money associated with it. So if you feel that you are capable of doing this task, you can go and read the abstract. And if you feel that you can do this task, you can take up this job. And if your solution is accepted, then you can get this amount of money. And one important fact of Innocentive is that all the tasks that is posted on Innocentive are usually macro tasks. They pay a lot of money. And Innocentive is not alone. There is a plethora of other applications. So this page actually tries to cluster. I'm not sure whether you can see the clusters. So these are the different clusters depending on what are their applications. In the cloud labor, you have this Amazon Mechanical Turk, Odesk, and also Innocentive should fall in this cluster. There is a cluster called crowdfunding. So suppose you want to start a business, a new company, you need some kind of a seed funding. And these are the platforms where you can, it connects the entrepreneurs to the investors. And this is an interesting application of crowdsourcing as well. And all these platforms are commercial uses of crowdsourcing. Because of the success of crowdsourcing, even the businesses are also moving towards these crowdsourcing platforms. The reason is it's very cheap, it's easily accessible, and you do all these things without even acquiring new human or non-human resources. So there are many definitions of crowdsourcing, but this one I found to be the most comprehensive one. Crowdsourcing is a type of participative online activity in which an individual, an institution, a non-profit organization, or company proposes to a group of individuals of varying knowledge, heterogeneity, and number via a flexible open call, the voluntary undertaking of a task. So these are the important factors. The open call, it has to be open call, and you'll have to incentivize the people to voluntarily undertake the task, and the individuals can be of heterogeneous nature. And all these things are very, very much, characterizes this crowdsourcing problem. So what is economics doing here? So we have already said that the goal of crowdsourcing is to harness information, expertise, or knowledge, even labor from a heterogeneous crowd. That is what crowdsourcing is all about. And majority of the crowdsourcing applications use the social connectivity. So the underlying social network is important because that is how you can reach out to a very big bunch of people. So that brings us to the crowdsourcing of our networks. And because it's a crowd, it's a human crowd, they have a certain kind of a payoff. It may be monetary, it may be non-monetary, but still they have a payoff. And what we mean by strategic is that they are always picking their actions in such a way that maximizes their own payoff. And that requires a game theoretic analysis. And that brings us to the economics of crowdsourcing over networks. And that is the theme of my thesis as well as this talk. So let me give an overview of what problems I have addressed in my thesis. So it has 3 main chapters which addresses these 3 main problems. Skill elicitation, because crowdsourcing is so heterogeneous, the crowd is so heterogeneous, you'll have to elicit the true skills. You might not know how skillful your laborers are. So that is the first problem. The second problem is resource critical task. This applies to the crowdsourcing contest, like finding an object or something like that. And you have certain objectives like minimizing the cost or minimizing the time to find that object. Those fall under this resource critical tasks. And the efficient team formation. If you consider the entire crowdsourcing network as one team of people or an organization, a networked organization, and if you define efficiency in an appropriate way, how can you maximize that efficiency of that team? And one common thread in all these things is we use the analysis tools. The analysis tools in all these areas are game theory and mechanism design. So let me go into each of these areas individually. So the skill elicitation part handles this fact. We have already told that the crowdsourcing, the crowd is essentially heterogeneous, and that is why we need to elicit the private skills. So in this part of my thesis, I'm assuming that the skills are privately known. That means the users or the crowd knows their skills perfectly, and the crowdsourcer or the mechanism designer does not know. And also, it falls under the class of interdependent. Why? Because the way how you pick the team, so your own benefit or maybe the crowdsourcer's benefit depends not only your own individual skill, it also depends on the skill of all the people in that team. So in that sense, loosely speaking, it falls under the category of interdependent valuations. That means your value, so how much you value a certain the outcome of this project depends on the skill of all the people that who are involved in this project. And for this part, so this is a classical area in mechanism design theory, and by the result of Jehiel and Moldovanu, it is impossible to ensure efficiency and truthfulness in this interdependent valuation setting. What is efficiency? Loosely speaking, the efficiency means that you pick the right set of people in some sense that maximizes your total reward or whatever you define to be the efficiency metric. And truthfulness means that the crowd reports their skills truthfully. So, but this negative result says that if you have interdependent valuations, then efficiency and truthfulness is not possible to satisfy by what I call as usual mechanisms. So what usual mechanisms does is that you decide the set of people whom you choose and also how to pay them at the same time. So this is a simultaneous decision of allocation as well as payment, and that is why it's making it impossible. So Mezzetti showed a workaround by splitting this decision of allocation and payment into 2 stages. So that is why I call it a 2-stage mechanism. And the results show that you can design mechanisms which are efficient and truthful by splitting the decisions of allocation and payment into 2 stages. But it has an inherent problem, namely in the second round of this mechanism, it's not strictly truthful. So the agents are indifferent between telling truth or lying. And the first problem that we have addressed is to make the second stage strictly truthful. What I mean by a 2-stage mechanism is the following. So these agents, you can consider these thetas as their private skills. They report their private skills. Depending on that, the mechanism designer designs the allocation, and then they are assigned this task. They get a certain amount of valuation. This 2-stage mechanism asks for this valuation again and then decides the payment. So in classical mechanisms, this allocation and payment decisions are taken simultaneously, while this is splitted, and that is to take care of that interdependent valuation setting. For Mezzetti's mechanism, this stage of value reporting is not strictly truthful, while our mechanism satisfies this strict truthfulness. So that is for the static skills, that is all these skills are not varying with time. And in the second part of this chapter on skill elicitation, we consider stochastic variation of these skills. In particular, we assume that these skills are varying according to a Markov process, and we satisfy the same properties like truthfulness, efficiency, and in certain cases, it can be individually rational, which means that the expected utility for every agent to participate in this game is non-negative. So you don't get negative payoffs if you join this game. So I'll come back to this resource critical task because that is going to be the focus of today's talk. I'll dig deep into it. So let's go to the efficient information part first. So as I have already told that here I'll be considering the whole crowdsourcing network, no matter however it formed, as one organization or a network, and I'm trying to maximize certain tangible output of this network. So for simplicity, I assume that this network is a tree. So that means one individual is recruiting two people. They are in turn recruiting more people, and it flows like a huge tree. And origin is someone is like a crowdsourcer or a client who is giving you the task. So he is not part of this game. And this the strategic play starts from this root. Now every individual in this so if every individual in this network or the tree has a certain amount of effort that they can put in. So maybe an individual can work not more than 10 hours a day. So the problem here is how should you divide this 10 hours between your work and management. So maybe you can say that I can work on this problem. So I am given a problem, say, of finding an object. I can go and find the object myself. At the same time, I can educate other people where it could be found or information about this object, and that is what we call as the management effort. How do I split my efforts between work and management so that I can maximize my own payoff? Of course, whenever I am spending much time with the people that I have recruited, I have some kind of a passive reward. Otherwise, I won't spend any time in it. And what we show that there exists a Nash equilibrium in this optimal split between work and management. And under certain cases, the Nash equilibrium is actually unique. And how this Nash equilibrium is determined, the Nash equilibrium effort level depends on how much reward you share between these individuals. So suppose a manager gets 50% of the reward that his immediate neighbors, immediate children get, or maybe some other number. Depending on that number, the Nash equilibrium work and management split happens. So one extreme case you can consider that you get a lot of passive reward. So you get a huge amount of partial reward if you forward this task. Then you will stop working on your own, because now by spending more time on this management, I'm getting more reward. So that is the intuition, and that is supported by this Nash equilibrium equation as well. So it shows that how you can, so you can imagine that I want to maximize the total productive output of the system, and that depends on how you design your incentives. So in this paper, we have actually shown that by choosing this the reward shares, you can maximize the productive output of the system. So that is through incentive design. So in the first part, we assume that this the network of the crowdsourcing network is fixed, and you can only design the incentives. That is one way of maximizing your productive output. On a complementary side, you can ask about if the incentive is fixed, how you design the network in order to maximize the productive output. So there is a different notion of productivity there, and you can do this in both ways. Either you can maximize you can design the incentive to maximize the productive output, or you can fix the incentives and design the network and also maximize the productive output. So that is how you can design an efficient team. So let's go back to the original part that we had. So I'll go into the resource critical tasks now. So this applies to the situation where you have a crowdsourcing contest. Suppose you are trying to find a solution to a problem, or trying to locate an object, trying to find the nearest hospital, or maybe a doctor in the case of disaster relief, like what is happening in Uttarakhand now. So, and if you involve payment in those kind of things, so while you forward, you get either a passive reward or you get a direct reward for finding the object. In those kind of settings, a major problem is that of Sybil creation. Sybil stands for fake nodes. So you can actually create fake nodes and increase your payoff. So that is one part, one kind of strategic attack that a strategic agent can do. And in those kind of settings, we show a limit of achievability. I'll skip this part here because I'll be discussing it in more detail. So what we mean by a fake node creation, a Sybil node, is one node splitting into multiple nodes and thereby trying to maximize their own payoff. So this is one part of this chapter. The second part is you can either, so you can reward either only the winning chain. So suppose there was an object which was found and you reward only the winning chain, but at the same time you can also think that the partial information about whether this object was there or not, that partial information can also be rewarded, and that will actually lead to faster convergence of this problem. So how you can actually make that kind of partial information to be honored is by using prediction markets. So classically, prediction markets were designed so that people don't manipulate information, and we want to combine the ideas of prediction markets and crowdsourcing in this part of this literature, in this part of the thesis. And actually, this is still an ongoing work, so we don't have full answers to all these questions. So putting everything together, so in these three branches, I have the whole crowdsourcing problem. I have addressed these three different problems: skill elicitation, resource critical tasks, and efficient information. And in the leaves, you can see what are the problems that was addressed, and the corresponding publications. And for the purpose of today's talk, I'll just discuss about this Sybil-proofness problem. So I'll take a pause. If there are any questions before I go forward, I'll be happy to answer them. No questions? Okay. So let's go to the Sybil-proofness problem. In 2009, the Defense Research Organization of United States, named DARPA, started this contest called the DARPA Network Challenge, which was more popularly known as the Red Balloon Challenge, because they have actually, so the challenge was the following: they had 10 red weather balloons, which were distributed in different locations, so which were placed in different locations in continental United States. And the deal was the following: whoever, as an individual or as an organization, can find the location of all these balloons will get a reward of $40,000. And you can very easily see that, so this is a snapshot after the challenge was over. And from the geographical locations, you can figure out that it will be impossible for a single individual to travel to all the places and locate these balloons. So somehow you'll have to gather the collective information that the crowd has. So maybe I know the location of one balloon, or maybe at most 2 balloons. How do I know? How do I aggregate the information that different people have in different locations of this area? So even though this is a specific example, this can be generalized for many other applications. Finding a solution, partial solutions are available, and you want to aggregate them to make one consolidated solution. And crowdsourcing is essentially a natural approach. Turns out that the winner was from the MIT Media Labs, and the solution concept that they used was actually using this crowdsourcing problem. The theme was, you can either find the balloon yourself or you can spread the message. So they set up a web page where you can go and register yourself, and if you know the location of one or more balloons, you can directly inform them and you get a direct reward. But if you don't know, you can invite your friends who might be more appropriate in finding the locations of the balloon, and then if they find it, that's good, they get a direct reward, you get a passive reward, indirect reward, because you have forwarded the information to them. And if they also don't know, they can forward it even further, and that is the way it gets flooded over the social network. And here is an example. Suppose Alice was the person who first went and registered herself in the website, and this is how the network grew. And finally, this person here, Dave, found the location of the balloon. And they had a reward sharing scheme. The incentive scheme was the following. Dave gets half the total reward. So remember, there were 10 balloons, and the total reward was $40,000. So they split $4,000 per balloon, and half of that, $2,000, goes to Dave, and half of that goes to Carol, that is 1,000, and half. So it keeps on decreasing with a factor of half towards the root. And because of this factor half, you will never spill over the budget of $4,000. And there are two important things to note here. Dave has an incentive to find the location of the balloon, because that is, if you find the balloon, you get the maximum amount of reward. At the same time, the intermediate nodes also have an incentive to forward this information, because if you forward, you get some kind of a passive reward, even though you can't find the location of the balloon, because somebody in your subtree can potentially find the balloon, you get some kind of a passive reward. So there is an incentive for task forwarding as well as a task execution. So even though this sounds very nice, and because of this incentive scheme, I'm not sure whether because of this incentive scheme, but this was a very nice way of finding the balloons. And they found all the location of the balloons in less than 9 hours, the location of all 10 balloons. 9 hours, 52 minutes. Okay, thanks. So yeah, but still it has certain problems. So what are those problems? You can easily see that there is a chance of creating fake nodes, and how? Let's talk about that. So this is the same graph. Look at Carol. She is currently getting $1,000. What if she splits herself into three nodes? So one of them is a true node. The other two are Sybil nodes, as we call it. Those are fake nodes. Just by creating 2 fake nodes, she is going to get $750 more. And this is what we call a Sybil Attack problem. And the trouble is, now you have, as a designer, if you are trying to minimize the total cost, you'll have to pay this $750 more, which is undesirable for a task owner. And on the other hand, it reduces the reward of the ancestors of this Sybil creating node. Look at Bob and Alice. They were earlier getting something more, say $500. Now he is getting only $125. So which actually reduces the deserved payment that Bob and Alice should get. So in a crowdsourcing setting, it's immensely difficult, because you have a huge crowd. So I think the maximum length was something like 14 nodes, and there was some 40,000 people. So individually verifying the identity of each node, still it's difficult, because you will never know. So yeah, so this is kind of what we want is more kind of from a mechanism design point of view. Can you actually stop this from the mechanism itself? So we don't want Sybil attacks. Maybe you can argue that the previous mechanism was not that great, because it was giving a lot of money to the leaf and keep on decreasing towards the root. What if we start from the root and keep on decreasing the money towards the leaf? And that is what we call as a top-down mechanism. And you can come up with one naive scheme. So here is one naive scheme through which you give a lot of money to Alice, keep on decreasing from Bob, Carol, and Dave, and you can stop Sybil attacks. So this particular mechanism is Sybil-proof, in the sense that nobody will create multiple fake nodes, and they can't gain anything by creating fake nodes. But it introduces a different problem. Now look at Bob, Carol, and Dave together. The amount of money that they are going to get now is smaller than if they collapse to a single node and report the location of the balloon. And that is what we call as the node collapse attack. So this is also undesirable. The reason is it's again costing more for the social planner, and also because these people have now got some surplus amount of money, how they are going to distribute this money raises a situation of bargaining among these agents. Yes. It's not intuition. You can just design a kind of a scheme. So in this particular case, I have taken, so you involve the length of the chain as well. So longer the chain, I'll penalize more. So yeah, so you can consider that as an intuition. So if you create, so because of this, if you create multiple fake nodes, your reward, the total reward that you are going to get will become smaller. And you can, so this is not the only one. You can come up with some other mechanism which will also stop Sybil-proofness, but that will still have node collapse attack. As I come to the next result, that I'll show why it is not possible. Yes. Yeah, but at the same time, there will be only one winning chain, right? Only winning chain. In this kind of setting, we are only rewarding the winning chain. So if you create multiple fake nodes here, those nodes anyway don't get into the picture. So yeah, that is an advantage of this kind of atomic tasks. So yeah, so this induces a bargaining situation. Yeah, so yes, very much true. But here you are trying to invite people, the crowd. If a random user already sees that this mechanism has this kind of a bargaining situation, bargaining problem, then I might not be interested in joining this crowdsourcing experiment at all. And that will be very bad for the crowdsourcer, because I want people to voluntarily participate. They will lose interest if this kind of situation happens, because not everybody would be highly, so they won't have so much computational power to decide what is the right bargaining solution in this case. So that's the problem. And also the purpose of running a crowdsourcing experiment is not simply to get an answer. It also, we also want to find out what is the network structure. Maybe in future we'll use the network structure from some other purposes, and that is, but this node collapse attack actually hides the structure of the network. So what if they don't even participate? Then the whole purpose is defeated. Yeah, I mean that requires a modeling of how the agents are. Yeah. So, but in general, so if this kind of a trouble can happen, I mean, the whole problem of crowdsourcing is to reach out to a certain set of people, and in many cases, we have done some experiments in lab. It's difficult to get the trust of the people. So if trust is broken, then it's difficult to get the people at the first place. Forget about the solution or collapsing. So yeah, this is one of the problems, not the only problem. Of course, the actual network formation is much more important than that one. So we don't want the node collapse attack. Neither do we want the fake node creation attack. So what do we need? Let's write down in formal notation. So this is just the downstream Sybil-proofness, a bit of notation. RKT is the reward that a node at position k gets when the length of this winning chain is t. So if you consider the whole length of the winning chain to be t, k starts from 1 to t, and in the kth position, the reward of the node is given by RKT. And if you create n fake nodes, together with them, the total reward that you are going to get is not more than the original reward that you are going to get. We call this reward mechanism is downstream Sybil-proof if this particular thing happens. On the other hand, collapse proof means if p of these nodes collapse to a single node, thereby reducing the length of the winning chain to t minus p, the reward that this collapse, the total node, the collapse node gets should not be more than the reward that they were getting individually. So that is the collapse proofness property. And notice that both these properties are dominant strategy implementations. So in mechanism design terminology, dominant strategy means that you will never be better off by creating fake nodes, no matter whatever the other people are doing. Notice that in this case, I am not talking about any other node. If they create fake nodes, okay. If they don't create fake nodes, still also I have no incentive to deviate from creating fake, from deviating from the truthfulness. So that means, notice that this is much stronger than saying that it's beneficial for me not to create fake nodes, given that others are also not creating fake nodes, which is more like a Nash implementation. And we'll come back to that. But we are considering only dominant strategy implementation in this case. The other important property that we want is we call it strict contribution rationality, that all the nodes who are in the winning chain should get some kind of a positive reward. Otherwise, why should they participate at all? And you can make this contribution rationality to be weak if you allow even the zero payoffs for the nodes which are intermediate nodes. Only the last node, that is the tth node, that the leaf node gets some positive reward. Everybody else can potentially get non-negative rewards. So that's a weak weaker version of that contribution rationality. And of course, you need to balance the budget. That is, the total reward that you are going to get for any chain, any winning chain, should not be more than the R max. In the case of Red Balloon, the R max was $4,000. So now the most important question is, can we satisfy all these properties together? And the answer is no. We can't really satisfy all these properties. In fact, this Sybil-proofness, strict contribution rationality, and collapse-proofness are not satisfiable by any mechanism if the length of the winning chain is more than or equal to 3. And a little bit of weaker result we can satisfy, which says if you weaken this strict contribution rationality to weak contribution rationality, that is, now you are allowing for zero payoff for the people who are in the intermediate stages, then this is satisfiable, but it is satisfiable by a very restrictive mechanism, which is called the winner takes all. That means you give the total amount of reward to only the leaf node and pay nothing to the intermediate nodes. This kind of mechanism is also not going to work because there is no incentive for the people to forward this information. If an intermediate node knows beforehand that I'm not going to get any payoff if I forward this information to other people, why should he forward it at all? So even though it's a possibility result, both these results are essentially a kind of a negative result, that you can't satisfy all these good properties in the world. And even though you weaken, it is satisfiable by only a very restrictive mechanism, which has limited practical use. So what do we do then? Usually there are two different ways how we can relax the properties that we have, we are trying to satisfy. Either we can relax the equilibrium. Just remember, we told that our mechanism is trying to satisfy a dominant strategy implementation. That is, no matter whatever the other people are doing, it's still beneficial for you not to create fake nodes. If we go from there to this Nash implementation, where we are saying that it's beneficial for you not to create fake nodes, given that others are also not creating fake nodes, it's a little weaker result. And these people, Babayev and others, has actually shown that there exist mechanisms if you go for this Nash implementation. The complementary approach, and that is what we take in this talk, is that you keep the equilibrium notion to be dominant strategy still, but you weaken the concept of Sybil attacks. So you say now that you can create fake nodes, but by creating fake nodes, you won't be able to gain more than epsilon fraction of your original reward. What does it say mathematically? That means if you create n fake nodes, the total reward is going to be this, which can potentially be more than RKT, but it will be upper bounded by 1 plus epsilon times RKT. So you have a epsilon thin bound around that, the truthful reward, which you can't go beyond with this, and that is the property that this mechanism is going to satisfy. Now the question is, we ask the same question, can we design mechanisms with this kind of a limited Sybil attacks? And the answer is yes. In fact, just by weakening one property, epsilon DSP, we can satisfy all the other properties in its pure form, and we stick to the dominant strategy implementation still. Now the question is, there are many mechanisms in this space, and it depends how you want to guarantee fairness to the participants. So maybe you can say, if I am in a resource critical setting, that my goal is to minimize the total cost, or maybe I want to minimize the total time of executing this task, how should I incentivize people? One way of incentivizing is by incentivizing the task forwarding phenomena. So I say that if your child is going to get m amount of money, you are guaranteed to get at least delta times m amount of money, where delta lies between 0 and 1. So it gives a very quantitative measure that how much reward, passive reward, you are going to get. You have a lower bound on that reward. So suppose somebody in my subtree finds the location of the balloon, I can guarantee at least some fraction of the total reward. So that is, so you have some incentive for forwarding this task. On the other hand, yeah. Yes. Yeah. Impossibility. Yeah, impossibility. No, I mean, it has nothing to do with. So the problem here is, it says only it's SCR, positive, but I can give arbitrarily small, right? What is the guarantee that you will have So suppose if someone finds the location of the balloon, I give him say $2,000, but I give you 1 cent. Why should you? So that also falls under this class. That will also be epsilon DSP. That will also be collapse proof. But that is not enough to ensure that you are going to work. So that is why we need a tangible lower bound, which is like if your child gets $2,000, you get at least $1,000, where the delta is equal to 0.5. So that is the incentive for task forwarding. And also, if you happen to be the locator of this balloon, then you get at least gamma fraction of the total reward. So that is what we call the winner's gamma security, gamma sec in short. And of course, there has to be a relationship between this gamma and delta so that you don't spill over the budget. That's a feasibility constraint. And we put all this delta, gamma, and epsilon. The feasibility is set as E. I'm not going into what E is. Given that those feasibility conditions are satisfied, then a cost minimal mechanism. So that is, you look at all the mechanism that falls under this category, this epsilon DSP, delta SCR, gamma sec, and budget balance. And on this space of mechanism, you are trying to find the mechanism which minimizes the cost. That is nothing but a gamma delta geometric mechanism. What is a gamma delta geometric mechanism? You give gamma fraction of the total reward, R max, to the leaf node, and keep on decreasing with factor delta towards the leaf. And because of this feasibility constraints, you will never spill over the budget. And in addition, what this gamma delta geometric mechanism satisfies is the collapse proofness. So you actually have incentive for task forwarding, that is satisfied. You have the incentive for task execution, that is satisfied, budget balance, as well as CP, the collapse proofness property is also satisfied. And you have limited Sybil attacks, and you are trying to minimize the total cost. So we actually can characterize this space of mechanisms that does so by this simple mechanism. And you can readily see that MIT mechanism is one specific case of this, where delta and gamma was both half. So you are giving half of the total reward. So R max was 4,000 in that case. Half of that was 2,000. That is going to go to Dave, the person who found the balloon. And delta was 0.5. So you keep on decreasing with factor half towards the root. So I will show a graphical illustration. That feasibility set is essentially the area, the region below this blue curve. And here I have plotted epsilon, gamma, and delta on these 3 axes. And one point to notice is that this MIT mechanism turns out to be a special case where gamma is equal to 0.5 and delta is equal to 0.5. And now you can say quantitatively what this MIT mechanism was going to satisfy. It was satisfying the delta SCR and gamma secured with those 0.5 and 0.5 parameters. At the same time, it was not satisfying the Sybil-proofness, but rather it was satisfying the limited Sybil-proofness where the epsilon factor was equal to 1. And of course, the winner takes all mechanism says that you give the whole amount of money, or at least some kind of positive reward to the leaf node, and you pay nothing to the others. That means delta is essentially 0. So the floor of this space where delta is equal to 0 is the class of all winner takes all mechanisms. So I have just described only the cost critical part, even though the paper has even the time critical thing, and for the sake of time, I'll be skipping those things. If you're interested, you can go to this can refer to this paper and read it up. There are all the details of the proofs, and also the cost critical, also the time critical thing can be found there. It appeared in the Web and Internet Economics last year. So let me summarize the results, not only this problem, but of the whole thesis. In general, we have looked into the 3 different areas of crowdsourcing problem. The first one being the skill elicitation problem. The second one, resource critical tasks that we have discussed just now. And of course, if you consider the whole network as one team, then how you can maximize the efficiency of that team by doing certain designs, certain incentive design or network design. And in all these cases, the modeling was game theoretic, and we have provided some interesting mechanism design solutions. So putting everything into one line, one take-home message is difficult, but let me give it a try. A game theoretic analysis on the network of strategic agents yields an efficient and robust design of the crowdsourcing mechanisms. So that could be a one-liner take-home message from this talk, and maybe from my thesis as well. So there are plenty of interesting future works that one can pursue. In the first part, that skill elicitation part, we have only considered skills which are perfectly known to the crowd or the participants. One can actually think about a more realistic situation where people don't really know their skills. They know it through experience. More they work on a certain problem, they get more and more better and better estimates of their own skills. So the users also get their estimates of skills, and at the same time the mechanism designer. It essentially, and we are trying to exploit some ideas from both machine learning and mechanism design, how we can make a incentive compatible machine learning problem in that setting. The other problem is of more into information theoretic setting. I have talked about the prediction markets. An integral part of the prediction market is what is called the market scoring rule, and there is a close connection between the logarithmic market scoring rule and the entropy function which is used in information theory. And this logarithmic market scoring rule were designed so that people don't have any incentive to manipulate the information that they are providing. And using those kind of techniques, we can actually make the information aggregation truthful, even in a crowdsourcing setting. So that's the other bunch of problems that one can look at. And of course, in the final part where you are talking about the productive team formation or the efficient team formation, there you can talk about the network stability. What does it mean? If you are prescribing one particular network to a set of individuals, there should not be any incentive for any of these individuals to delete any link and make a new link. So if I assign one person to be the manager and the other person to be the employee, they should not break this link and go to a different network structure. That is what is called the network stability in the context of social networks, and that is also an interesting problem to pursue. So that brings us to the end of my talk. Thanks for your attention. A bit of acknowledgement to the department and also Tata Consultancy Services who supported my doctoral fellowship. I've been funded by their fellowship for the last 3 years. So thanks very much. And if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them. Huh? Oh, those are supplementary slides, only if they are needed. Backup slides. Yes. 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 Yeah.
How crucial is that for your
In particular, I'll go even further. I'll say it's only on a chain, only on the winning chain. Yeah, it's just restricted to one winning chain. And if you want to split this task, so for example, the reward is split between different chains. Then also the same epsilon Sybil-proofness, all those results will go through, because in each part you will apply the same results, and together in a certain node you will still have that kind of a property. Yeah, but it is very much limited to a tree. It's not for any general network. So. Yeah. No, not for the bottom-up scheme, because for the MIT scheme it's not beneficial for you, because no. So the leaf node will anyway get half the total reward, $2,000, irrespective of where they show up, and the previous person will get $1,000. So it doesn't. No, okay, so let me go back to that slide. Where they have that one. this one, right? So it does not matter whether Dave joins here or here. If he finds the balloon, he'll still get $2,000. So shorter is not going to help me anyway. And so, and also if Carol joined instead of Bob's invitation, perhaps he got some other invitation as well. If he had joined this guy or even Alice. So if he gets an invitation from Alice, he connects directly here, but he will still get 2,000 because Dave is the finder of the balloon. He'll get 1,000. Alice might get $500 in that case. Yes, so that is the tree. That is a tree. Exactly one person. Yeah. So if you want to ask if there are two invitations. So for example, instead of a tree, it's a directed acyclic graph. What happens in that case? Then you'll have to have a specific reward sharing scheme in place already, right? So you can. So for example, if I say that there exists one edge from Alice to Carol, and then you have 50% reward will go this way and 50% reward will go this way. Then you can actually decompose this part into two nodes, still make it a tree, and share the rewards. So that way, I mean, you can map this to that problem anyway.
Well, actually, you can go even more. What you can say is you don't need to care whether the rest of the graph has loops or not, as long as the winning chain
Yeah.
does not have loops, I'm okay.
Yeah. So loop is a problematic thing. I don't know how to handle loops.
Well, yeah, so you don't have even cycles.
Cycles, if there are directed cycles, then also then you have trouble. First will.
And for the winning chain, it seems okay, but then since I haven't seen the complete analysis,
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah. So I can.
somewhat takes care of it.
Yeah. So you can. Yeah. You can think that now instead of giving the whole reward to a person who actually spotted the balloon, if someone else also gave partial information, so say alpha amount of information 1 minus alpha. So this I'll multiply 2,000 multiplied by 1 minus alpha, and the other guy is alpha. There won't be any unique winning chain, but there will be multiple winning chains. And in all these cases, that epsilon DSP property will still be satisfied. Though, so essentially at a single node, if I look at, it will the same property will still hold.
So suppose that unlabeled node had a link to Carol.
Yeah.
You did your geometric method. So the thing that breaks is Parkinson.
No. So then you'll first you'll have to say what is the reward sharing scheme. The moment you are allowing two incoming nodes, you'll have to have a reward sharing scheme in place. How you'll see if it turns out to be the winner, how do you share this? Maybe 50-50, maybe 70-30, whatever way. As long as that is there, then you don't lose out, right? So your 2,000 will, so 70% of that will go through, and you split this Carol into two parts, and then do the same analysis. Yes, because here we don't make any distinction between. So in this system, if you are already referred by someone else, you can't be referred by someone else. That was their system. All these three, if you are looking at only the cost critical thing. So the set of, so in that space of all those, satisfying all those properties, you're just looking at the mechanisms which minimize the cost, and that is unique. That is that mechanism. Time critical will also have a similar characterization result. Yeah, we know. Yeah, so that is the second part. I told you about the synergy part. If you go back to the synergy part, so rewarding all contributors, what you are talking about. So suppose I find that the balloon is not in Bangalore. There is no winner in this case. There is no winner in this case because you have not spotted the balloon. Maybe you have searched Bangalore and found the balloon is not in Bangalore. If you inform that, and if it turns out to be true, I'll reward you. So the whole reward of all $4,000 or $2,000, instead of giving to one winning chain, I split it to all the informants of this balloon. So if you say that yes, the balloon is not here, that is also some useful information because it saves a lot of energy for the other people to search in the same place, and I'll reward you accordingly. So there is no point of losing interest in that case. So that is the second part. Yeah, and in fact we have some kind of a working paper on that as well. Still have 3 minutes. Thank you.